The notification sound from my phone pierced through my tiny studio apartment at 11:47 p.m. I set down my cup of instant ramen and grabbed my phone, already knowing what I'd find. Another demand from Mom, probably with Dad standing over her shoulder dictating the message. Maya, transfer $8,000 by tomorrow morning for our Bahamas trip. The resort needs payment. Family comes first, you know this. Don't make us ask twice. Mom. I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. $8,000. That was more than I made in 3 months at my supposed entry-level marketing job, according to my family's understanding of my financial situation. They had no idea that the small consulting firm I'd built over the past 4 years was pulling in 7 figures annually, or that my tiny apartment was actually a strategic choice to maintain my cover while I built my real estate portfolio. The family group chat immediately lit up with messages I wasn't included in, but my brother Jake couldn't resist screenshotting them to me with laughing emojis. Screenshots of Mom and Dad discussing their upcoming vacation, complete with photos of the luxury resort, spa treatments and first-class flight upgrades. All funded by their struggling daughter who supposedly lived paycheck to paycheck. Your parents work so hard, Jake had texted with a string of eye-roll emojis. Unlike some people who just shuffle papers for a living. I opened my banking app and stared at the account I kept specifically for family demands. Balance: $12,847. Enough to cover this request, barely. I maintained this account with just enough funds to seem believable when I told them I was scraping by, but could still help family when absolutely necessary. My real accounts, the ones containing my actual wealth, remained completely hidden. With mechanical precision I transferred the money and screenshot the confirmation. Sent. Have a good trip. Short, professional, no complaints. Never complaints because that would lead to lectures about gratitude and family obligation that could last hours. My phone buzzed immediately. Good girl. This is what family does for each other. Your dad and I have sacrificed so much over the years. It's nice to finally have a daughter who understands responsibility. I set the phone aside and opened my laptop, navigating to the encrypted folder where I kept detailed records of every financial demand, every guilt trip, every unauthorized charge they'd made using the credit cards they'd convinced me to add them to for emergencies only. The folder was getting thick. The pattern had started subtly 3 years ago. Small requests for grocery money when Dad's business was slow. Mom needing help with her car payment because the insurance company was taking forever to process her claim. Jake's college expenses because you're the only one working full-time. What began as a few $100s here and there had escalated into a systematic draining of what they believed were my resources. Meanwhile, Jake drove a brand new BMW their business struggles had somehow afforded. Mom wore designer handbags to her bridge club meetings. Dad had joined an exclusive golf course that cost more per month than most people's rent. The Bahamas trip was just the latest in a series of luxury expenditures funded by their supposedly broke daughter. I opened a new document and began typing my latest entry. November 15th, $8,000 wire transfer for family vacation to Bahamas. Parents departing tomorrow for 10-day luxury resort stay. Dad mentioned first-class flights and spa packages. Total family financial demands this year, $87,650. Unauthorized credit card usage. Documented $23,420. Credit cards they don't know I monitor and pay off monthly to protect my credit score while gathering evidence. My consulting business specialized in financial forensics for corporate fraud cases. The irony wasn't lost on me that I spent my days helping companies identify embezzlement and financial exploitation while experiencing it firsthand every evening when my phone buzzed with the latest family emergency. The next morning I drove to my real office in the financial district, a sleek space on the 47th floor that my family had never seen. My assistant, Sarah, greeted me with coffee and a concerned expression. "Another family demand last night?" she asked, noticing my tired expression. $8,000 this time. Vacation to the Bahamas. Sarah shook her head. "Maya, you know I've been working with you for 2 years now. I've seen your client list, your revenue reports, your investment portfolio. You're worth more than most of our corporate clients. Why do you keep letting them do this?" I settled into my office chair and pulled up my calendar. 3 client meetings today, All corporate executives seeking help with internal financial investigations. Because I'm building a case, Sarah. Every transfer, every demand, every guilt trip is being documented. When I'm ready to cut them off completely, I want bulletproof evidence of the systematic exploitation. But Maya, you've already got evidence that would convince any court. How much more do you need? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Jake's number. Maya. Guess what? I just got promoted to regional manager. Dad says we should celebrate with dinner at Chez Laurent tonight. Can you cover it? I know money's tight for you, but this is a big deal for the family. Chez Laurent. The restaurant where appetizers started at $60. I closed my eyes and calculated quickly. Dinner for the family there would easily run $1,500. How many people, Jake? Oh, just the immediate family. Me, Mom, Dad, and Sarah Jessica. Jake's girlfriend of 3 months, who had somehow already become included in immediate family events that I was expected to fund. Jake, I just transferred $8,000 yesterday for Mom and Dad's vacation. Come on, Maya. Don't be selfish. This is about celebrating my success. Besides, you know Mom and Dad have been under financial stress. The least you can do is help with one dinner. Financial stress. While they were currently in first-class seats flying to a luxury resort I'd paid for. I'll see what I can do, I said, ending the call. Sarah was watching me with barely concealed frustration. Let me guess. More family celebration you're expected to fund. $1,500 dinner tonight because Jake got promoted. The same Jake who posts Instagram stories from his BMW and designer shopping trips? I nodded, pulling up my family expense tracking spreadsheet. The same one. That afternoon, my phone exploded with family group chat messages I wasn't included in, courtesy of Jake's screenshots. Photos of Mom and Dad on their resort balcony with tropical drinks. Captions about finally being able to relax thanks to Maya's support. Dad's selfie at the resort's high-end golf course with "Life is good when family takes care of family" as the caption. Each image was a knife twist. They were posting about the vacation I'd funded while maintaining the narrative that I was their struggling daughter who could barely afford to help but did so out of love and obligation. My work phone rang. Maya Rodriguez, Financial Forensics. Ms. Rodriguez, this is Detective Chin with the Financial Crimes Unit. We've been investigating a pattern of elder financial abuse cases, and your name came up as someone who specializes in family financial exploitation documentation. Would you have time to consult on a case? I straightened in my chair. Of course, Detective. What type of case? Adult children systematically draining elderly parents' accounts while convincing them they're financially dependent. The pattern includes emotional manipulation, unauthorized account access, and fraudulent financial statements. The victims often don't realize the extent of the exploitation until they're facing foreclosure or bankruptcy. As Detective Chin described the case details, a cold clarity settled over me. I was looking at my own situation in reverse. Instead of elderly parents being exploited by adult children, I was the adult child being systematically drained by manipulative parents who had convinced extended family that I was financially dependent on them rather than the reverse. Detective, I'd be very interested in consulting on this case. In fact, I may have some personal insights that could be valuable. After ending the call, I sat in my office staring out at the city skyline. My parents were currently sipping cocktails on a beach I'd paid for, preparing to demand that I fund my brother's celebration dinner, while posting social media content that painted me as the grateful daughter they were supporting through my struggles. I opened my secure file system and began a new folder. Rodriguez Family Financial Exploitation Evidence Compilation. It was time to treat my own family like the fraud case they'd become. That evening, I arrived at Chez Laurent in my deliberately modest Honda Civic, wearing clothes from Target that I kept specifically for family events. The performance of struggling young professional had become so automatic I barely thought about it anymore. Jake was already there with Sarah Jessica, both of them dressed in designer clothes that cost more than my monthly rent, according to family mythology. Mom and Dad were calling from the Bahamas via FaceTime, their resort suite clearly visible behind them. Paya. Mom's voice came through Jake's phone speaker. We're so proud of Jake's promotion. Make sure you order something nice for yourself too, sweetie. You work so hard. I smiled and nodded, the familiar sick feeling settling in my stomach. Thanks, Mom. The resort looks beautiful. It is. The spa treatments are amazing. Dad played 18 holes this morning. The golf course here is incredible. She panned the phone to show their balcony view of crystal blue water. This is exactly what we needed. Jake ordered wine that cost more per bottle than my supposed weekly grocery budget. Sarah Jessica insisted on the lobster course. The appetizers alone would have covered my monthly car payment, according to family financial mythology. As the evening progressed, Jake regaled the table with stories of his new promotion, his company car upgrade, his increased salary. Sarah Jessica posted Instagram stories featuring the expensive dinner, tagging the restaurant and including captions about celebrating with family. Not one person at that table questioned how their supposedly struggling family member was funding this celebration while eating a salad that cost $47. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Don't forget to tip well, Maya. It reflects on our whole family." I excused myself to the bathroom and leaned against the marble counter, staring at my reflection. The woman looking back at me was tired, stressed, and trapped in a performance that was destroying her emotionally while enabling behavior that would be classified as financial abuse in any other context. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, navigating to my real accounts. My net worth stared back at me: $3.7 million in liquid assets, another $2.2 million in real estate equity, and a consulting business generating over $150,000 monthly in revenue. I was a millionaire pretending to struggle while funding the luxury lifestyle of family members who viewed me as their personal ATM and treated me with casual disrespect that would be unacceptable in any other relationship. The dinner bill arrived: $1,847. I handed over my debit card without comment, watching Jake sign the receipt with the casual entitlement of someone who had never questioned who would pay. "Maya, you're the best sister ever," he said, patting my shoulder condescendingly. "Mom and Dad raised you right." That night, I sat in my apartment and made a decision that had been building for months. I opened my laptop and began drafting an email to Detective Chin, offering to provide not just consultation on the elder abuse case, but documentation of a parallel financial exploitation pattern that might help establish broader precedents. "Detective Chin, following our conversation today, I'd like to schedule a meeting to discuss potential evidence I can provide for your investigation. I believe I have documentation of systematic financial manipulation tactics that may be relevant to your case. I'm available at your convenience. Maya Rodriguez." I attached my preliminary documentation: bank records, text message screenshots, credit card statements showing unauthorized usage, and my detailed expense tracking. 3 years of evidence that told a clear story of financial exploitation disguised as family obligation. Then I began drafting a second email, this one to my attorney Marcus Webb, who specialized in financial crimes and family law. "Marcus, I need to schedule a consultation regarding systematic financial exploitation by family members. I have extensive documentation and believe criminal charges may be warranted. How soon can we meet? Maya." As I hit send on both emails, my phone buzzed with another message from Mom, sent from her resort balcony. "Maya, Jake mentioned you seemed stressed at dinner. Money troubles? Remember, we're always here to help our daughter. Family takes care of family. Love you." The gaslighting was so perfect it almost took my breath away. The woman spending money I'd wired to her account 24 hours ago was offering to help me with money troubles, while positioning herself as the supportive parent rather than the exploitative beneficiary. I screenshot the message and added it to my evidence folder. Then I began typing a response that was completely honest for the first time in 3 years. "Thanks for the concern, Mom. I'm actually doing very well financially. Enjoy your vacation." It was a small step, but it felt like breaking through a concrete wall I'd been trapped behind for years. The next morning, my phone was ringing before I'd finished my coffee. Dad's number. "Maya, your mother is upset about your text last night. She's worried you're developing some kind of attitude about family support. We raised you better than this." I took a deep breath, looking out at the city from my apartment window. "Dad, I'm not developing an attitude. I'm just being honest about my situation. Your situation is that you have family who love you and have sacrificed for you your entire life. The least you can do is show some gratitude instead of getting snippy when we need help." "Help with what specifically?" Silence. Then, "Help with life, Maya. Family responsibilities. Normal family things. Like $8,000 vacations?" Another pause. Your mother and I work hard. We deserve to enjoy the fruits of our labor. The fruits of my labor, you mean? Maya Rodriguez, I don't know what's gotten into you, but you need to check your attitude right now. We'll discuss this when we get home. He hung up. I stared at my phone, my heart racing. It was the first time I'd ever directly challenged their financial demands, and his response was immediate anger and threats of consequences. My work phone rang. Marcus Webb. Maya, I reviewed the documentation you sent. This is textbook financial exploitation with clear evidence of fraud. The unauthorized credit card usage alone constitutes multiple felonies. When can you come in to discuss next steps? This afternoon? Perfect. Maya, I want you to understand something. You're not just a victim here. You're a victim with evidence. That's a powerful position. Detective Chen called an hour later. Ms. Rodriguez, your documentation is extraordinary. Would you be willing to serve as a consultant on developing recognition patterns for this type of family financial abuse? We're seeing more cases like this than you might expect. That afternoon, I sat in Marcus Webb's office while he reviewed 3 years of meticulously documented financial exploitation. Maya, they've committed wire fraud, identity theft, credit card fraud, and what could be classified as extortion given the emotional manipulation tactics. The evidence is overwhelming. What are my options? Complete financial separation with potential criminal charges, or civil action for restitution. Given your financial position, I'd recommend full separation with criminal referral. The pattern needs to be stopped, not just for you but to prevent escalation. What would that look like? Marcus leaned forward. We freeze all accounts they have access to, document every unauthorized transaction, file criminal complaints for the fraud, and begin civil proceedings for full restitution. Then you disappear from their financial access completely. They'll lose everything. The house, the cars, the lifestyle. Maya, they've been stealing from you for 3 years. The lifestyle they'll lose was never legitimately theirs to begin with. I thought about Mom's text from the resort balcony, Dad's angry phone call that morning, Jake's casual assumption that I'd fund his celebration dinner. I thought about eating ramen in my apartment while transferring money for their luxury vacation, about maintaining a fake struggling persona while my real business thrived. Let's do it. Marcus began pulling forms from his desk. The first step is documenting everything and freezing their access. Then we file criminal complaints. Fair warning, the family reaction will be nuclear. I know. Do you have somewhere safe to stay when this hits? Family financial exploitation cases can become very volatile when the money stops flowing. I gave him my real address, not the fake struggling apartment address my family knew. I'll be fine. Maya, I have to ask, why now? You've been documenting this for years. What changed? I thought about Detective Chen's call about the elder abuse cases where adult children systematically drained parents who didn't realize the extent of exploitation until they faced bankruptcy. I thought about my parents posting photos from their luxury vacation while offering to help me with money troubles. I realized I was enabling behavior that would destroy them eventually anyway. Better to face consequences now than after they've committed larger crimes or exploited other victims. Other victims? I pulled out my phone and showed him Jake's social media. My brother's girlfriend. He's already suggesting she should contribute to family expenses since they're getting serious. The pattern's expanding. Marcus nodded grimly. It always does. Financial exploitation escalates until external intervention stops it. We spent the next 2 hours building a comprehensive case file. By the time I left his office, criminal complaints had been drafted, civil suits prepared, and a detailed plan established for complete financial separation. My parents would return from their Bahamas vacation to find their credit cards frozen, their access to my accounts revoked, and legal papers waiting with evidence of 3 years of systematic financial fraud. The vacation I'd paid for would be their last expense at my involuntary expense. That evening I sat in my real apartment, the spacious 2-bedroom with city views that my family had never seen, and felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Complete financial autonomy. No demands on my phone, no guilt trips about family obligation, no performance of struggle while achieving success. My phone remained quiet until 11:30 p.m. when Jake called. Maya, Dad's freaking out. He tried to use your credit card for their resort spa day and it got declined. Mom's crying because she thinks you're having money problems and can't afford to help anymore. What's going on? I looked out at the city lights, thinking about Detective Chen's elder abuse cases, about Marcus Webb's forms, about 3 years of documented exploitation disguised as family love. Jake, I'm not having money problems. I'm having boundary problems. Those are two very different things. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm not anyone's personal ATM anymore. Silence. Then, Maya, what the hell has gotten into you? Family helps family. This isn't like you. You're right, Jake. It's not like me. The old me would have apologized and transferred more money. The new me is going to let you figure out how to pay for your own spa treatments. I hung up and turned off my phone. Tomorrow, Marcus Webb would begin filing criminal complaints. Detective Chen would have documentation for patterns of family financial exploitation. And I would start my first day in 3 years without the weight of supporting people who viewed my success as their personal resource while treating me with casual disrespect. The fraud investigation would reveal everything. My real financial position, my business success, the property investments they knew nothing about. The family members who had spent years treating me like their struggling daughter would discover they'd been systematically stealing from a millionaire who had been quietly documenting every transaction. Their shock when they realized the scope of both my actual success and their own criminal behavior would be comprehensive. But not as comprehensive as their shock when they realized their luxury lifestyle was about to disappear along with their access to the income source they'd never bothered to understand. 3 days later, Marcus Webb called with updates. Maya, the criminal complaints have been filed. Detective Chen's team is treating this as part of their broader family financial exploitation investigation. Your parents' flight lands this afternoon, and they'll be served with papers tomorrow morning. What kind of papers? Fraud charges, identity theft charges, civil suit for restitution, and restraining orders preventing further financial contact or demands. I took a deep breath. And then we see how quickly people who've been living beyond their means can adjust to living within them. My phone had been buzzing constantly since their credit card stopped working the day before. Dozens of calls from Mom, Dad, and Jake that I hadn't answered. Text messages that escalated from confusion to concern to anger to panic as they realized their financial access had been completely severed. The latest message from Mom at 6 a.m. Maya, we're scared. The resort says our cards aren't working and we can't pay for our room. We need to come home early but can't afford to change our flights. Please call us back. We don't understand what's happening. For the first time in 3 years, my family was experiencing genuine financial stress instead of manufactured financial drama designed to extract money from me. The role reversal was complete. That afternoon, my phone rang with an unknown number. I answered carefully. Maya Rodriguez? This is Agent Patricia Morrison with the FBI Financial Crimes Division. Detective Chen referred your case to us as part of a broader investigation into family financial exploitation patterns. We'd like to discuss your documentation and its relevance to other ongoing cases. I sat down heavily. Other cases? Ms. Rodriguez, the tactics your family used are part of a recognizable pattern we're seeing in financial exploitation cases nationwide. Your documentation may help us identify and prosecute similar crimes. By the time my parents' plane landed, I was sitting in a federal building providing testimony about systematic family financial exploitation to investigators who were treating my case as part of a criminal pattern worthy of federal attention. The family members who had spent 3 years treating me like their personal bank account were about to discover they'd been committing federal crimes against someone whose evidence would help prosecute financial exploitation cases across multiple states. Their vacation was over in ways they couldn't yet imagine. Marcus Webb texted me that evening. Papers served. Your father's reaction was recorded by the sheriff's deputy and will be entered as evidence. Apparently, he said, this is impossible. Maya doesn't have money for lawyers. The deputy noted the irony in his report. I was no longer the struggling daughter they'd been supporting through their generosity. I was the millionaire they'd been systematically defrauding, and the evidence I'd collected was about to change their lives permanently. The financial investigation would reveal assets they never knew I had and crimes they never realized they were committing. Their luxury lifestyle built on my involuntary funding was ending, but their education about consequences was just beginning. Justice, it turned out, had been quietly documenting itself for 3 years, waiting for the right moment to present evidence.